welcome back to Novel Insider. My name is Valeria.
My name is Liz.
And my name is Majo.
We are a Veracruz based podcast and we are very happy to have you today. As you may know by the title, we review famous novels.
And today is not exception. We're going to be exploring a very special one. It is a one no other than a novel with 15 films adaptations and several memorable quotes, the iconic Hamlet.
We are very curious about the story, but we bet you are too. So, begin with we would like to have an idea of what Hamlet is about. The ghost of the King of Denmark tells his son Hamlet to avenge his murder by killing the new king, Hamlet's uncle. Hamlet faints with madness, contemplates lives and death, and seeks revenge. His uncle, fearing for his life, also devises plot to kill Hamlet. The play ends in duel during the which the king queen Hamlet's opponent and heal Hamlet himself are all killed. This synopsis is brought to you from Shakespeare Pure Place Trust.
So, now that we have a clearer view of what Hamlet is about, we would like to introduce to you to our surprise guest of today's episode. Please snap your fingers. For world renowned writer William Shakespeare.
Oh, wait, guys, I'm going to the restroom really quick, but I'll be back for the interview.
Yeah, okay, Liz. Oh, he's here. Hello, Mr. Shakespeare. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today. We are very excited to introduce to you to our audience and have a dive into what the story of Hamlet really means to you as an author, while also talking about the backstory to the very memorable quotes that can be found in the novel.
I extend my most humble gratitude for the gracious invitation, a token of human honor to stand within the halls of noble insiders. As a devotee of its pages, the mere mention of its esteem gathering doth set my heart ablaze with joy. When presented with the gracious often to park it in disgust, regarded one of my own greatest endeavors, I could scarcely contain my exultation. I stand before three now, ages and resolution, prepared to lend my ear to the thin inquiries and offer for things response.
Well, yes. Thank you for your nice words, but you could speak in a more recent way.
Oh, of course, I will speak in more 21st century style.
To begin with the questions, what do you refer to when you say the famous phrase to be or not to be?
To be or not to be means to live or not to live. I deliberate how painful and miserable human life is, and how death, specifically suicide, will be preferable. Will it not be for the fearful uncertainty of what comes after death?
What was your inspiration for creating this novel?
So I based the Hamlet on the tragedy histories by Francois de Belfort from the 16th century. The text tells the story of the Danish prince and his revenge for the murder of his father, after his uncle married his mother Gertrude after killing him.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work for the people that are hearing our podcast that they don't know you, that they may not know you too well?
Yeah, of course. Some of my most popular novels are Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar, King Lear, and Hamlet. But I did 37 plays, 154 sonnets, and many, many poems.
Which of all your novels would you consider as your masterpiece?
Good question. I think that Hamlet, because was a very famous in my time, and I think it continues that legacy nowadays.
Would you consider Claudius an important character? If so, why?
Of course, we can have real examples like him in everyday society who can kill or do anything for power, and not any type of killing. They can go as far as killing their own family members. Claudius is representation of those people who are so hungry for power they destroy more than people. It reflects of society, families, and communities.
Wow, these answers have been very helpful for us and our listener to really get a better understanding of how the story really comes together. It seems like those have been all of our questions. Once more, thank you so much for visiting us, Mr. Shakespeare, and hopefully we can have you back when we review another of your works.
Well, of course, it was so nice to get you talk to you about a piece I'm very fond of. Thank you girls for having me and of course I will return. Goodbye.
Well, that was great. We wanted to talk to one of the most famous writers of all time, and this is a great time to talk about our thoughts on the novel itself.
Hey guys, I'm back. The bathroom was super far away. Did I miss Shakespeare? Oh, I did. Didn't I? Well, anyways, let's continue with our reviews and please, this is not spoiler free, so let's begin. Okay, in my opinion, in one word, I will describe this novel as tragedy because everyone dies. When I was reading the novel, I was in shock about the lack of loyalty from the uncle of Hamlet for killing his own brother and marrying his wife. Also, I was in shock when Hamlet rejected Ophelia because he was obsessed by avenging his father, that he rejected Ophelia. And as consequence of that, Ophelia kills herself. Two opinions about this first. First, why does Hamlet was very aggressive with Ophelia? She was just being nice and expressing her love for him, and he didn't listen. And then, why Ophelia kills herself? You need to live your own life. He didn't deserve you. Also, I want to talk about the last fight. When I was reading it I was thinking that this it was a very tragedy. Everyone dies. Hamlet, the uncle, and Leicester, Ophelia's brothers, because of the same poisoned sword. And then the mother of Hamlet also dies because he drinks water with poison. That was supposed to be for Hamlet. For my last comment, all of the characters died, and at the end, Fortibras, who is not so relevant in the story, ends as king of Denmark.
Wow, that is true. Because after reading the play or the book, I think there are so many moments that make Hamlet such a memorable read. In this case, there are several instances that really stick out to me, but for starters, when it is implied that Hamlet decides on his own free will to act crazy, quote unquote, but at the end of the day, I don't really know how much of his actions were deliberate or just a result of seeing his father as a ghost, which I should note had a very recent passing. Like him killing Polonius through a tapestry because he thought it was his uncle, that might just have been actually him being insane. But this is just adding into the mix that your mom just married your uncle even before your dad had touched the dirt that was 6 feet under. And seeing your dad like in a ghostly form must have had an effect on him. At the end of the day, he had no time to grieve his dad before taking on the mission to avenge him. So aside from the main mission, which is to avenge his dad, there is also his these rather odd decisions when it came to his romantic affairs. I think after thinking it for a bit, there wasn't really a necessity to break it off with Ophelia. Because, or well, the way he did it was rather rude because he went as far as saying terrible things to her, like he never loved her or that she should go to a convent and become a nun. Because this probably made her spiral into madness and she ended up just killing herself, where she becomes a liability for Hamlet and the situation with his uncle. So, one thing I really enjoyed was the satisfaction of seeing Hamlet get the answer to his question in such a creative and indirect way. He was wondering if his uncle had truly killed his dad, and when there are no words really spoken about the culpability of his uncle, but rather his choice to leave the play in which the mysterious murder of a king happens, tells us a lot about how Hamlet was playing mind games with his uncle. And also unrelated, but I had never known before reading this that the world famous quote "to be or not to be" happened during this play. But for whatever reason, it was felt very satisfying to find its origin. It's really iconic as it is. But to conclude, let's talk about the ending scene of the story in which Ophelia's brother Laertes returns from France for her funeral and also kind to like avenge his dad Polonius, which was murdered. So I must mention how in like I should mention that I felt there was a really like incestuous vibe with the relationship Laertes had with Ophelia. Like the main reason why Hamlet and Laertes begin their duel is because Laertes firmly believes he loved his sister more. So maybe I'm looking too much into it, but it came off as romantic love rather than family. And at the end of the day, the poison ended up being a double edged sword, pun intended. Uh, Not only did it take out Laestres, Claudius, and Hamlet all at the same time, but Gertrude too. There was not much context as to why she drank it. Like, we knew the poison was for Hamlet, but in reality, it made me question how much did she know of what actually was going on? Like, was she that oblivious to his husband's affairs? I don't know. And at the end of the day, the only survivor from the entirety of the characters end up dying. There is only Horatio left. Even though he wasn't necessarily linked to everything, Hamlet ends up telling him his last wish, and that's pretty much it. Everything started with Horatio and ended with him. The chaos theory would be very satisfied with its job. For me, those were the most memorable moments of all throughout the book. And after this, I totally get why Hamlet or even Shakespeare managed to maintain its relevance over time. But now let's hear it from Majo.
This innovational work by William Shakespeare immerses us in a world of intrigue, tragedy, and existential reflections that have captivated an audience for centuries. As the plot unfolds, we encounter complex and fascinating characters that reflect the human condition and its facets. One of the highlights of Hamlet is the depth of its dialogues and monologues. Shakespeare employs poetic prose and a richness of language that invite us to reflect on universal themes such as life, death, morality, and the purpose of our existence. As for the lighter moments, Shakespeare also provides us with moments of comedy. Within the interactions between Hamlet and the characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, for example, give us moments of light humor and clever wordplay. These moments allow us to breathe and enjoy a respite from the emotional tension of the play. However, there are also moments in Hamlet that may be less enjoyable. Ophelia's madness, for example, shows us the fragility of her mind and her tragic fate. These scenes can be intense and heart-wrenching, evoking feelings of sadness and empathy towards the characters suffering.
How interesting was to hear everyone's point of view on such an iconic book. But now, we're going to do a little dynamic, the fun facts section.
Yes, right. The dynamic will consist of telling some fun facts about the author and the novel. Here I have a bowl full of papers with fun facts we investigate. We are going to grab some of the papers and read the fun fact. Well, let's start.
Okay, I will grab the first paper. It says that Shakespeare married his wife Anne Hathaway. Yes, the name may sound familiar. When he was 18 and she was 26 and 3 months pregnant with Shakespeare's child when they married.
Oh my god, there is a big age difference. I couldn't marry someone with that difference.
I agree with you. Well, now it's my turn. He survived a pandemic. Shakespeare lived through and survived a pandemic, one of a number of waves of the bubonic plague. Very sadly, however, his son Hamlet died of the plague. Affect William's writing and themes like disease, death, and grief ran through many of his plays. Although no one knows for certain, it's likely that Shakespeare named his most tragic character Hamlet after his son.
Very sad. I think it was devastating for Shakespeare. I can imagine the pain of losing a son.
Yeah, you're correct. Now, for the next fun fact, we have that Shakespeare and his theater company performed before both Queen Elizabeth I and King James I.
Whoa, three icons in a room. Now it's my turn. Oh no, wait, this is not a fun fact. It's actually very sad. Shakespeare died on his birthday, April 23rd, 1616.
No, that's very sad. Poor Shakespeare. What are the odds of that happening? Then we have that Shakespeare had been credited by the Oxford English Dictionary with introducing almost 3,000 words to the English language.
Well, Shakespeare did a lot of things. Was an actor, writer, poet, and now also added words to the English vocabulary. When does this guy sleep?
The father of literature, if you ask me. Okay, no. The next fun fact is that Shakespeare placed a curse on his grave, daring anyone to move his body from that final resting place. So his epitaph said, "Good friend for Jesus' sake forbear, to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be that moves my bones." Well, that was creepy.
Are you telling me now he is also a wizard? He's like Barbie. He do everything.
It wouldn't surprise me if you tell me he also played football or was in politics.
Well, he for sure was a wordsmith of sorts. But for the last bit of our podcast, we are going to read some opinions that you sent us about Hamlet via Instagram. So let's go for the first one.
Okay, Avid FB Reader rate this title with 2 out of 5 stars. And it says, enjoying this read only marginally more than the first time. I had to read it over and over. Remember the neither a borrow nor a legend be, and the to be or not to be parts, but overall found the Old English difficult to read. Okay, I agree with this comment.
Bookworm rated this title 5 out of 5 stars. Hamlet is one amazing play. It is a complex and engrossing read that is dark, tragic, and dramatic. I can now see why it's the pinnacle of Shakespeare. The morality is clear cut, but the characters themselves are quite gray. It's not an easy read, but one is well worth the effort. A true classic.
Wow, yeah, agreed. So we have AL3XZUS comment that says, in this play, the main character Hamlet is told to avenge the death of his father, the previous king of Denmark. And the play follows his quest to seek the truth behind his father's death and to plot revenge. Hamlet is my favorite work from Shakespeare because it is the longest out of his plays and has a very complex storyline. There are a lot of famous monologues from this play, including the famous to be or not to be speech.
Wow, I didn't know it was the longest play of Shakespeare.
Okay. AMGB rated this title 5 out of 5 stars. Hamlet was our Shakespeare study for English 31 this year, and honestly, I ended up really enjoying it. It helped to have a teacher that was really passionate about it and to be able to read it out loud as a group in a class. I probably took 14 pages of notes and had a blast doing so. Hamlet was a genuinely fun text to analyze, and I know routinely quotes some of the play's funnier lines.
Well, Omar Darbandi rated this title 5 out of 5 stars. It says, very cool story for students. Okay, that was a short review, but I think we can all agree that the book on itself is very entertaining for all ages. And I'm glad to see students get more into classics.
Well, it seems that has been everything for today. We managed to do a deep dive into the entire universe and history of Hamlet with opinions from everyone and a very special guest.
I still can't believe I missed Shakespeare. I had so many questions lined up.
You snooze, you lose.
Okay, Majo, thank you so much for tuning in for this new episode of your favorite podcast, Novel Insider. Make sure you follow us on our social media page and stay tuned for next week's episode where we will be having a special on the Odyssey by Homer.
Once again, thank you and read you next week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.